Previously on Drone Wars.
As long as you take enough shots, one of them's gonna land, right? If you're doing the same job in 1 year from now that you're doing today, then that's considered a failure or a miss. You should always try to automate yourself out of whatever you're working on.
You might be a technical expert, a VC might not be, or an investor might not be. So how do you frame it in a way in which they can understand both like the problem, the solution, and then the TAM?
Planes are literally falling out of the sky and people are dying because of this. And I'm probably one of the top power users in the world that understand how do you build complex machines in a reliable way. If I'm not going to solve it, who else will? Hi, I'm Karthik, CEO at Sift, and you're watching the Drone Wars podcast.
So let's now talk a little bit about you and how you want and how you run a company, right? Because you started a company. I think the average age of a founder, forget what you see on the news, I think it's actually closer to 40. You know what I mean? Especially for a first-time founder. So talk to me about how you were able to navigate kind of some of the uncertainty from leaving a really cool job you enjoyed, right? And then you overcome a bunch of challenges, of course, along the way.
Well, the nice thing is most everyone was very supportive about it. I actually think that the people that were the most questioning it were my future mother-in-law at the time, who was like, are you sure you want to give up your job to do this?
I did the same when I met her 10 years ago. You want to stop drones? What's wrong with you?
Exactly. Yeah. But I think as she got to know me, she had more confidence. I don't think my wife did the best job selling it either. Instead of saying oh, he can always go back to SpaceX, or he's a pretty talented engineer, she just I believe in him. It's that doesn't inspire much confidence in parents at all.
No, not at all.
But no, they're all great. And it sounds like now we're no more questions anymore. But
now they brag about you.
I actually think it's good to start companies after a little bit of work experience, because it's one of those things that you kind of need to learn how work is done or what businesses do. I would want to be careful about it wouldn't be great to go to a place that's very poorly functioning, because I don't know if you necessarily learn the right lessons. Let's say you worked at a company for a decade that was let's say it was a rocket company of sorts. And then that company goes out of business and you don't necessarily know what worked or what didn't work. So that's one risk that I would put in there. But I think you can de-risk that by going to places that are functioning well, people that are surrounded by really smart people, very good ethics as well. Because whenever you see people doing short-term, non-ethical decisions, I probably won't be around very long. So I think those are all things to look for. But I think I would highly encourage people to get some work experience before starting a company. I think the uncertainty aspect of it in my head was, I knew that, hey, I'm leaving this place on good terms. I'm already a known quantity to them. If I need to go back, that is an option. And the other thing was also there's a downward pressure as well by age, being hey, what is if I start this when I am 40, when I have kids, there's other types of obligations. When I started the company, I was single, 27 or 28-year-old guy. There's there's no other responsibilities at this time. So I think that's part of why I was if you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? And it gets harder.
Yeah, no, it for sure does, because we get older and more tired all the time as well. Let's shift questions here for a second. I want to have you talk about some of the products that you build at Sift. Okay. So talk to us a little bit about let's start with Sift Stack.
Yeah, of course. So the stack part of it was, because what we're doing is we're building a full stack solution for testing, manufacturing, and operating complex hardware. So there's different challenges that you have at each stage there. For testing, how do you test more often and test how do you automate the testing so you can test more often, build more reliably, and get your system over to manufacturing faster? With the manufacturing side of things, it's how do you automate a lot of the QA so that you can actually manufacture faster? And then the operations side, this brings you to this concept of observability versus monitoring, which in the IT world, this is a big thing last decade, where people moved everything to the clouds, and you have basically all this complex cloud IT infrastructure, and you don't know what's going on. And you can't just rely on a bunch of dashboards to tell you this is what's happening. Like we have some customers with relatively simple hardware, satellites wise, that they have like 600 dashboards on. And if they're trying to actually build for very much like what Firestorm is doing, it's like you're moving away from like these exquisite, complex machines more towards large attritable fleets. You can't be staring at 600 dashboards for every single drone, right? So how do you move to this concept of like automating a lot of the like the checks and analysis of that system so that people only have to pay attention when something is off nominal rather than staring and monitoring and like driving the vehicle every single time. That's a lot of what we do across the entire hardware stack. And a lot of this is all underpinned by some data infrastructure that we built that is designed for working with all this engineering data that comes off of hardware. The specific term for it is telemetry. So engineering telemetry. And we basically build purpose-built infrastructure for hardware data.
What do you think founders or even customers get wrong when it comes to like data-drive products?
What do you mean by the data-driven or data-drive products? Do you mind just defining that?
Yeah, sorry, like data-driven, right? I misspoke. So like you need this data to then make actionable decisions, right? What are things, maybe they're second or third order effects, right? But like, what are people not thinking about and like where Sift really comes in and helps them solve a big problem?
I think the biggest thing is context. So there's a lot of institutional knowledge that people have when they're building machines. And the way I think about institutional knowledge or knowledge transfer more broadly is it's kind of like energy transfer. Every time you change the form of energy, like if you're going from like the fuel in your car to the kinetic energy of moving, you lose like 94% of that to heat, right? So with energy transfer, if you have some hardware engineer that's developing a propulsion system, then they have to go to a vehicle software engineer to then go instrument how that should behave. They lose a lot of context about like hey, depending on this type of operating environment at these speeds, there's this type of like effect caused by the wind, which then causes like the engine to behave in a certain way. So a lot of that context is lost. And then by the time it goes to an operator, that person's basically blind. So how is it that you can capture all that context in your machine so that the machine does the data-driven decision-making itself, so that a hardware engineer can go codify those like ideas and those like corner cases and behaviors into the piece of hardware. And then the next thing that's important is that once that actually reaches the operator in the field, then how do you surface that context and that information? Because the thing is, it's like, this is another concept from software, which is that it's like whenever you have anything that's like a second process for capturing this knowledge, like let's say you have documentation versus like inline code documentation, the one that's on the outside always goes stale. So it's the same concept where it's like, how do you like codify into the like nominal operating behavior of that machine, capture all this knowledge and that behavior, so that when the operator's in the field and something goes wrong, you can go surface those insights to them. And it'll just be, and now we have so many good tools like RAG models and everything that just like allow you to go retrieve the relevant information, surface to the operator. And I think it's really important, especially in like your space with a lot of your operators are probably like 19-year-olds right out of school. So How do you put something in their hand that is intelligent enough to tell them what's wrong or what's not, what needs to be done?
Drone Wars is recorded from Firestorm's global headquarters in San Diego, California. Each week on the podcast, we bring you cutting-edge insights from unmanned industry leaders. Listen as they share the breakthroughs and technologies they're working on, the hard lessons they've learned, and the bold predictions about what the next 5 to 10 years in unmanned systems and advanced manufacturing have in store for us. Enjoying the show so far? Then be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Now back to the show. Okay, so now that was a spectacular explanation, right? So now let's apply it kind of broader to a bunch of unmanned systems, right? So what does this allow that 19-year-old to do at scale with some of these attritable platforms that they wouldn't be able to do if they didn't have this knowledge?
Yeah, there's multiple things. One big one is going to be just maintenance in general. So it's like, instead of just like sending something out and it doesn't work, you just have to throw it to the side. It's like you actually can repair these things or make the right changes to ensure they don't break. You're also going to have, so like maintenance reliability is one of the big ones. And then the other thing is it actually comes even before it gets to the operator, which is more around on the manufacturing side, which is that you can actually ship a lot of these things faster because you can do a lot more of the automated testing on them, and you do a lot more automated QA. Like the Starlink manufacturing line is actually a great example. Austin helped build the manufacturing execution system for that. That entire line, it's very much like it's inspired by the Tesla Model 3 line, and it's like fully automated. Where what happens is that that machine, as it's being built, you can go run it through a battery of tests, like the RF tests, and then that data would then go run through the machine's inherent checks as though it was operating, and the machine can do its own like QA and checks, saying like, "Hey, this is working. I'm broken. You need to go route me to like a sideline." So it's like you can just automate and speed up a lot of the production of it. But then once you get to the field, it's more on like the maintenance and the reliability of it. Specifically for the unmanned systems, it's more about reducing the noise as well, so that people are not necessarily having to look at so many different things. It's
Right.
like they only have to pay attention to the things that are broken.
Yep. So you're allowing for faster, more reliable manufacturing, and then a
Yes.
reduction of the cognitive load from the operator when it comes to
Yes.
actually deploying these systems, so that you don't have, again, you send a swarm of drones somewhere, you're not looking at each individual drone, right?
Exactly.
One of the things I like to ask a lot of founders is to kind of reflect on like lessons that they wish they knew when they started this journey, right? So what would you tell yourself in 2022 that you know today, right? That would probably, be wise, like a wise words of wisdom, I suppose.
So this is also partially, I think, the way I operate, and I don't necessarily know if all founders would operate this way. But for me, I would say it's like you honestly just have to get your hands dirty trying something before you can hire someone to go do it. So the best example I would say is on the sales side. We thought we would hire like a salesperson. We would focus on the product and the engineering. You just can't outsource anything that's a core competency. I think that's one of the main lessons.
Yep.
And
You're
another,
you're the best salesman of your product, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you just have to learn it. You just practice. It's all just about, as we were saying, like you just got to practice, try it out, get rejected a lot. Don't worry about it. Because the thing is that as you keep growing and you're compounding, future or like previous rejections are potential like future opportunities. So like I think Impulse Space was a great example of that. Actually, we spoke to Impulse when you first started the company. We're like, this company is going to kill it. We have to work with them. Rejected. 1 year later, went in, talked to them. We're like, okay, they're killing it. They're doing really well. Rejected again. And then the third time we went in, they're like, oh, okay, like we'll check this out. And they also pulled in like other potential like vendors, and they like wanted to do a whole comparison, and they ran this like deep eval. And then they're like, oh, we're going to go with Sift, which actually like that was a good sign that they wanted to pull in the other vendors and things, because it meant that they were actually like seriously considering what is a solution here. And then what it is, they just chose the best solution. So I think it's like being comfortable with the rejection, trying over and over again is one thing. And the other thing that I think is like not very intuitive, because you won't find this online, which is merit has less weight than you would intuitively think, especially as an engineer. I think people want to work with people that they like. And I think it's important to like invest in the vibes in a way.
We love vibes here too. One of the things that Chip Kelly, who was the UCLA football coach, said that I've taken to heart is the second you have more than one jackass on your team, you have a jackass farm. And honestly, like team morale is truly the most important thing for smaller companies, because everyone's doing 10 jobs and everyone's working till 10 o'clock at night, right? So one bad apple can truly ruin the bunch.
I mean, you probably have a pretty good mechanism to filter that from the start now, but as you scale, like how do you do that at scale?
It's a great question. I mean, part of it too is like you have to ask the questions, and we do some tests as well to see how kind of people function in a group setting, because that's really important. But what we've actually seen started to happen, I'd say 3 months ago, is we have this talent density now that like everyone in our industry knows someone who works at our company. And so they're coming to us when they see a job rec, or they're being like, I'm really unhappy at my current company. Can I come work there? And we'll then look at our hiring board and be like, okay, well, we didn't need this person for 2 months, but this person is like such a difference maker. Like, spend the money, get them in, because they will like fundamentally like drive progress. And that has really started to happen, right? So you have these like good people who are highly competent and who work well in teams, bringing in kind of folks they've worked with in the past, or people from their previous companies are like, oh, I really want to work with you again. Like I will, I'd like to join on board. So that's one way. And then of course it really is like, it's just pattern recognition. You know what I mean? With anything in life, like, does this person seem like they would work well with a team? And if they don't, like you got to get those people out fast, because at the end of the day, this hiring's so binary. It's either going to work or it's not, and you want to be at, a 90 or 95% like sure shot, but nothing in life is a sure shot. So like, don't overthink it when it's time to pull the trigger and get somebody out of there. That's the number one thing. And it's hard. Firing people is really hard. I know you know this, right? But it needs to happen because it will really drop morale. 2 more questions here, kind of like in our reflection section, right? What's a hill that you are willing to die on? What is something that you totally stand by?
I think doing things that I would not appreciate done to myself. So what I mean by that is like doing like short-term decisions that can have more like long-term negative consequences. So for example, like some of the things I might see, like I think more specifically to our product side, it's like, hey, I'm building this as an engineer for other engineers. And what would they want? So for example, like I wouldn't want to build anything that's like vendor locked, or because I'm like, the product speaks for itself. Like if you guys don't want to be here, you don't have to be here. So we always make the decisions where it's like, what are the things that we would want done for ourselves if we were buying this, even if it's not necessarily in the business's immediate short-term interest, or like MBA pitch interest of like putting in a deck being like, yeah, we do this thing that locks them in there. But it's like, no, we're not out here to do those types of decisions. It's like more focused on the long-term relationship.
Final question, right? What's something you're working on right now that scares you or keeps you up at night, right?
Oh, I would say it's honestly just scaling the company. It's kind of like a scary thing as a venture-backed company where it's like, hey, there's a lot of stuff to do. Our customers are venture-backed as well, so they want to grow really quickly, which means I have to hire ahead of what anticipate their needs. So it's like, as a product, I have to be a little ahead of them. And then it's like, oh, on the customer side, it's like they ask questions like, oh, we're not using that yet. We don't want to pay for it. And it's like, well, I spend this extra money to hire people to go build this for something that people aren't using yet. But the thing is that then within a year, they will need it. So we have to have it there. And then it's just like a delicate balancing act. And I think that gets amplified, especially when you're a smaller company working with large primes, because those large primes, there's like so much opportunity inside them. It's like, what is it? Boeing has 130 different divisions, and there's like so many things you can help them with, which also means scaling out your team. But then it's like, how much are they going to pay you from the start because of the confidence they have in your company? So it's like this like interesting balancing act. And I would hate to ever have to like reduce our company's size to not delivering on the customer side, because it's like, that means I made the wrong calculations. It's like how big of the company we need. So I think that's always the scariest thing. My gut is that it's going to always be a scary thing.
Awesome, man. Thanks for coming today and sharing all your insights.
Thanks for having me and asking all the great questions.
Thanks for listening to the Drone Wars podcast. Each week, we bring you fascinating conversations with leaders shaping the future of air, sea, land, and space technologies. Catch new episodes wherever podcasts can be found. Until then, we'll see you next time.